Hello everybody, I'm Alicia Gadsden and welcome to LiveFit Kitchen. We're joined today by Dr. Andrea Purcell. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Alicia. It's so good to be here.
Dr. Purcell is the author of the healthy cookbook, Feed Your Cells, and she has so many amazing recipes. And today we have salmon, wild salmon with lentils and arugula. Now, I did do a little pre-cooking last night because the lentils take a little while to cook. You may or may not have seen green lentils before. They're not really very green. They're kind of brown. Tell us why we love them so much.
Lentils are an amazing source of nutrition. They're very high in protein. They're actually a vegetarian source of protein. Very high in fiber. So as you may know from watching some of our other videos, that beans and vegetables that are high in fiber help reduce our risk of heart disease and lower our cholesterol, and that's very important. The other thing about lentils is they're high in iron, so they're great for women. You know, if you're a little anemic or anything, eat some more lentils in your diet.
Lentils are good food. So last night, to pre-prepare, I chopped up 2 cups of red onion, 1 cup of celery, and 1 cup of carrots, and I chopped them fairly small. Now, the red onion that I used to get 2 cups was maybe about the size of my fist, maybe just slightly larger. So as you're choosing those in the store, look for one about the size of your fist. The other thing with the carrots was we had quite a debate over whether to peel carrots or not. Now, my grandmother always peeled her carrots, and her son, my uncle, said that that was silly because most of the nutrients were in the skin. We're still debating that. But we were talking about how to properly clean fruits and vegetables so that you don't have to peel them, so that you can eat the skin.
Yes, Alicia and I talked at length yesterday about carrots and whether or not they actually had a skin, and it's still up for debate. I just feel that, you know, carrots are a root vegetable. They do grow under the ground, and often they get dirty. So I think it's more a question of, well, how do we clean our vegetables and then chop them up so we can eat them? And there are actually a number of ways to naturally clean our vegetables. The first thing that you can do is buy a vegetable wash at the grocery store. And it gives you the directions on there, and you get a little scrub brush that you have at your kitchen sink, and you can just spray down the vegetables and scrub them off. If you don't have a vegetable wash, you can also use lemon juice. The very versatile lemon. It's, you know, all over the kitchen. But you can do fresh squeezed lemon juice again with the vegetable brush and brush it down. The other thing you can use is grapefruit seed extract. So grapefruit seed extract is anti-parasitic, it's antiviral, antimicrobial, antifungal, and that can be sprayed on your vegetables and then scrubbed off. Grapefruit seed extract is very bitter, so if you don't scrub it off, your vegetables will taste extra bitter.
So I think we agree whether you peel or not, a clean vegetable is really the key.
And it's not just for cleanliness, you know, we don't want to eat little critters that might give us food poisoning, but it's also because of pesticides. We don't, many of us are not able to buy all of our fruits and vegetables organic, and that's fine. We just have to make sure we can clean the pesticides off.
Good. Okay, so there's the debate of whether to peel or not peel a carrot, and what to do if you don't. More on that later. So what I did was I put the carrots, the celery, and the onion in with the lentils in 3 cups of water, and I cooked it for about half an hour on a low boil just above a simmer. And when I was done, there was a lot of liquid left over in the pot. So I actually drained most of it off. There's probably about a half a cup of liquid still in there. But I did, you know, just use the lid of the saucepan and just tip most of the liquid into the sink. You need some for when you add the arugula, but it was really a little bit too soupy. So now we're going to dress up the lentils with...
Okay, so lentils are one of those beans/legumes that do not need to be soaked. I think that's important because when people ask, you know, is this a bean that needs to be soaked? That means I have to prepare a day ahead of time. Absolutely not with lentils. So you just put them in the water, you put in the vegetables, and then you cook them. And Alicia, how long did they take you to cook?
It took about 30 minutes.
Okay, so 30 minutes, that's not too bad. They also will not cause gas like other beans. And the whole purpose of soaking beans is to release the hull and get them to sprout open a little bit, which will help our digestive system digest them better. With lentils, that's not the case. So what we have here is a pot of cooked lentils with the vegetables, the celery, the onions, and carrots. We are now going to add some sea salt and some pepper to season. I'm going to pour in some extra virgin olive oil and also some lemon juice. So there's our lemon again.
And with the salt and the pepper, I didn't put any in before I cooked it, and I did taste test. It could use a little salt maybe, but you really get so much flavor from particularly the onion and then backed up by the carrot and the celery. You're not going to need much, if any. So if you are choosing to avoid salt in your diet, you really won't miss it. And the pepper is going to give it that little bit of a kick. And then, of course, so we'll mix that through, and then we'll be adding the arugula to it as well. You don't cook it after that, you just set it to the side, and the heat that's already in there will wilt the arugula. So in the meantime, we're going to work on the salmon. And again, we don't need to do much to the salmon. We're just going to add just a little bit of salt, just a tiny little sprinkle, if even that. And I do like just a little pepper on that, again, not too much. And then it does recommend just basting it with a little olive oil, and you know, just the teeniest little bit can make a difference. I did, by the way, leave the skin on this salmon. I do prefer to cook my salmon with the skin on if it's available that way. And I cut these into approximately equal-sized portions. So, you know, if you're on the phase 1 or phase 2 nutrition plan, it's easy to cut it down. Now, remember, the plan does specify that the weight of your protein is after it's cooked. So I just added 1 ounce to each piece in its raw form, and I'll weigh it after, and I'm sure it'll be just about right. So we're going to lay these on an oven tray, skin side down, and just a little space between each piece. And then we'll be covering it with foil. We're going to cook it at 375 until it's done, which in different ovens really does seem to take different amounts of time. So I'm going to check it after about 10 minutes, knowing that it will probably be 15 before it's ready. A good rule of thumb is that with fish, it's about 10 minutes of cooking at 400 degrees for each inch that the fish is thick. So at 375, it'll take just that little bit longer. We are going to cover it with a piece of foil. And while this is cooking in the oven, that arugula will be wilting down. You can just stir it through, set it to the side, just, you know, pop the lid back on the pot there, and that will be ready to go once the salmon's done.
I do want to talk a little bit about arugula. It is such an amazing vegetable. While Alicia puts that in the oven, it is a member of the cruciferous vegetable family, and the cruciferous vegetable family has been shown to protect against many different types of cancers. And arugula is just a little bitter, and what happens here with the olive oil and the salt and the lemon juice is we're liberating the nutrients from the arugula in this lentil mixture, which has a lot of flavors and is very, very satisfying. Additionally, if we wanted to compare, and Alicia, you're going to love this, if we compared arugula to iceberg lettuce, which I'm sure she has a lot of things to say about iceberg lettuce, but arugula has 8 times the amount of calcium. Can you believe it?
I can believe it. Arugula is an amazing, amazing vegetable.
It's amazing. It has 4 times the amount of iron. So this is a high iron dish. We've got the arugula, the lentils. It's really amazing. It's got 5 times the amount of vitamin A, C, and K. So always choose a dark leafy green over iceberg lettuce.
Absolutely. And you know, that thing about calcium is so important. I get that question a lot about the first 2 phases of the LiveFit plan, because there's no dairy in that first 12 weeks. And people are always asking me, well, how do I get my calcium? Now, I have my own opinion about calcium-enriched dairy foods. I'm not a fan of them. And when there are so many healthy choices for calcium, such as our friend the arugula, then, you know,
it's absolutely true, and we're going to have other recipes with other foods that are high in calcium that we'll talk about. But I guess for this one, we should probably talk a little bit about wild-caught salmon versus farm-raised salmon, because the title of this recipe is wild-caught salmon, lentils, and arugula, right? So I'm going to say it, and I'm going to repeat it again. We really need to buy the line-caught wild Alaskan salmon. That is the best salmon. The salmon should not be farm raised. When the fish is farm raised, it's grown in a fish farm, and it's not fed its natural habitat. It's not fed the algae and the planktons. And when the fish eat the plants, just like us, it increases their ability to produce omega-3 fatty acids, which are anti-inflammatory, and that's what we get in the wild fish. In the farm-fed fish that are given grains, what happens with them? Their bodies produce the omega-6, which are inflammatory fatty acids. So really the farm-raised salmon is not good for us. It doesn't contain the omega-3 fatty acids. And you know, the fish need to eat the vegetables to make the fats, and we need to eat our vegetables so that we can continue to detoxify and rebuild and have a healthy body.
The other thing that you'll sometimes find with the farm-raised fish is that it will say right there on the packaging that it has been color enhanced. And you know, my personal opinion is if they need to add food coloring to make my food the right color that it would be if it was grown naturally, that's probably not a good choice for me. You know, it doesn't mean that I would never eat it. I wouldn't run screaming from a home if I was served that. But when I get to buy my own food, my choice is to choose the healthiest thing that I can, and I prefer to avoid food coloring in any way, shape or form, and certainly not in my fish. So we will leave you there for a few minutes while our salmon finishes cooking, and then we'll show you the finished dish. And fresh from the oven, the salmon, cooked to perfection.
Ta-da!
Now, if you see the little white spots that are on the salmon there, that's some of the fat coming up out of the salmon. So don't be afraid of that. It's good for you. And we're going to actually take this piece. It'll be easier for me to get to. Now, you may or may not choose to just gently scrape the salmon off the skin before you serve it. Most people don't eat the salmon skin, so if you leave it, you know, in the pan, then that's just fine. And we're serving it on the bed of lentils with a little side of arugula just for garnish and to make the plate look pretty. But that is a lovely looking dinner.
And what I do is I always eat the garnish, especially if it's arugula, which is so
Absolutely.
nutritious. So I
Sure.
just drizzle a little olive oil and I sprinkle a little bit of sea salt on there, and then the arugula is ready to go. The lentils are so satisfying. You're going to love this. This is a hearty dish with a lot of flavor.
And you'll find that if you do have some of the lentil mix left over, there are so many things that it goes so well with. You may end up keeping it as a staple in your fridge just through the winter season.
Or having it for breakfast the next day.
That too.